ביאור משנה ג' The explanation משנה ג' הספרים בימי חכמי המשנה, the books in the days of the Mishnah, היו עשויים מגילות. They used to be like a מגילה, like our מגילה, like a ספר תורה, like long, on a parchment. כמו ספר תורה שלנו, just like a book, our ספר תורה. ודנה משנתנו, our Mishnah is going to talk about a case, במי שהיה קורא בספר בשבת, somebody was reading a book on Shabbat, a Megillah. Just imagine the Megillah that we read, ונתגלגל ראשו האחת מידו לצד רשות הרבים. And, it opens up, and you're in the private domain, and now it rolled into the public domain, or almost into the public domain. What are you allowed to carry it back? What are you allowed to do? What do you do? Yeah, one.
The domain in public and one in the
Yeah, but we're going to see it's not really in the public domain.
It's like a kadu, it's like a ball.
Yeah. Oh, no. It's not like a ball. Because because a ball you're not holding. Over here you're still attached to it. That's the difference. Okay? So, and we're going to see, it's not exactly what is like this. We're going to see. היה קורא בספר. A person was reading a book. הגלול כמגילה. This is like a מגילה, like a parchment. על האסקופה. He was reading it by, let's call it a balcony. המפתן שלפני הבית. The area that's before the house. כלומר, שהיה עומד על מפתן הבית, he used to stand on that area before the house, וקורא ספר שבידו. And he reads the book. ותוך כדי קריאתו, and as he's reading it, נתגלגל הספר מידו, this book rolls from his hand, נתגלגל ראשו האחד של הספר מידו, וראשו האחר נשאר בידו, but he's still holding it in the other hand. In other words, one side rolled out and one side is still holding. So it says, גוללו אצלו, he's allowed to take him back to him. מותר לו לגלול את הספר אליו, he's allowed to roll it back to him. Why? הואיל ולא נפל כולו מידו, אלא ראשו האחד עדיין בידו. Since he did not leave completely his hand, he's still holding it in. But if it looks like if he's not holding it, forget about it. Yeah? יש מפרשים, there are those who explains, לפי דעת אביה בגמרא, according to the opinion of Abaya בגמרא, so there's a whole debate over here, that what kind of aspuka we're talking about. Are you, we have the public, aspuka is the area before the house, like a raised area before the house. So it says, what kind of aspuka we're talking about? We're talking about Reshut HaYachid aspuka or Karmelit aspuka, which means, so it says, there's two opinions. So there's an opinion that this aspuka is a Karmelit. Reshut HaYachid means that there's 10 feet area from the Reshut HaRabim. That it's an area that is elevated. Oh. Yeah, over here it's not it's elevated less than 10 amot. 10 amot, 10 טפחים. 10 טפחים. שמדובר בשנתנו באספוקה שדינה כקרמלית. We're talking about אספוקה that is a Carmelit. But also there's an opinion that says that it's a regular, it's a big. היינו שרוחבה 4 טפחים וגובה פחות מ10 טפחים, אבל יותר מ3. It's between 3 and 10. That's a Carmelit. Between 3 טפחים and 10 טפחים. It says that we're talking about. And by the way, this is most aspukot. If you go to your household, it's not this high, the step before the house. The step before the house is going to be like between 3 טפחים and 10 טפחים. Somewhere around there. But it's not really part of the house. And it's not really part of the thing, okay? ולפניה עוברת רשות הרבים. So in front of such a case, there's the public domain. ובאה המשנה ללמד, and it says, it's not what you think.
Now the case is from Carmelit to רשות הרבים. That's what you mean.
Yeah, you can also learn it from רשות היחיד. That it's more than 10 amot.
Now we're learning it from Carmelit to רשות.
Abaya learns it from Carmelit. You can continue to learn the Mishnah that according to some opinion, it's not talking about Carmelit, it's talking about רשות היחיד.
Right.
Yeah,
So
that's it too. Yeah. ולפניה עוברת רשות הרבים. ובאה המשנה ללמד, and comes the Mishnah to teach, שאם נתגלגל ראשו האחד של הספר מידו, And it's talking about something else. It's talking about you sitting, there's a step and then your house. It's hard to imagine over here in America, but if you go to Tzfat, you go to hills, and you've got a lot of these madrigot, like these steps next to the houses that goes from. So you're sitting in one of these madrigot, and the street goes down, and then it rolls down. But it's not like what we think. It did not actually get to רשות הרבים. What happened? ובא המשנה ללמד שאם נתגלגל ראשו האחד של הספר מידו, the one end rolled out from your hand, אף על פי שנפל לרשות הרבים, even though it fell into the public domain, מכל מקום הואיל וראשו האחר נשאר בידו, since the other part is in your hand, מותר לו לגלול את הספר אליו מרשות הרבים לכרמלית. He's allowed to take the book from the public domain to a Carmelite. So it says, what are you talking about? In other words, he says, no, it cannot be Reshut HaYachid. Because Reshut HaYachid, if it's a private domain, then it's Isur Deoraisa. You're going against the Torah. The Torah says, do not take things from the public domain to the private domain. So it has to be a Carmelite. That's what he's saying. Why? He says, why into Carmelite you're allowed to? Because he says it's an easy rule. שכן איסור ההכנסה מרשות הרבים לכרמלית, because the rabbis, even though the rabbis said, do not even take from public domain into Carmelite, it's only a decree for the rabbis. אינו אלא מדרבנן, it's not only from the rabbis. ובכגון זה, and when it's only from the רבנן, משום כבוד הספר, because the holiness of the book, התירו לו לכתחילה לגלגלו אליו. It says the Rabbanan themselves, the rabbis themselves said, in such a case, because of the holiness of the book, we are not going to decree on such cases. Such cases you're allowed to. But only if it's what? Only from Reshut HaRabim leKarmelit. Remember, I think there's actually an opinion that it's also to Reshut HaYachid. And then you're in trouble. Yeah. Beram, בברייתא שנו, in the ברייתא, they talk about it even more, שדווקא אם נתגלגל תוך 4 אמות. The ברייתא says it's not in every case. First of all, it cannot have rolled up more than 4 אמות into רשות הרבים. גוללו אצלו. אבל אם נתגלגל חוץ ל4 אמות, but if it rolled out more than 4 אמות, then you'll be carrying it in the public domain more than 4 אמות. That's for sure you're not allowed to. That was your question. Are you allowed to pull something in the public domain? So if you're carrying it if you're pulling it more than 4 amot, even if you're in the private domain, you're not allowed to. So it says it has to roll but less than 4 amot into Reshut HaRabim, because if it's more than Reshut HaRabim, when you get carrying it back, it's not a problem. We let you go take it back to the Carmelit, but you are carrying now the Oraita. Now you're going 4 amot in the public domain, and that's a mitzvah from the Torah. That we will not let you. So what do? This book is going to get something wrong with it. So he says the best you can do is turn it over. So at least if a little bit of dew, a little bit of rain, it will still okay. Hofcho al aktav. So it says the most you can do is to turn it over. You're allowed to turn it over. שלא יהיה מוטל בביזיון, that it will not be staying there in a non-covered way, in a non-honorable way. ומניחו, and he puts in the גזירה שמא ישמט כולו מידו. It says this is a decree, maybe this whole thing is going to remove from his hand, ויעבירנו 4 אמות ברשות הרבים, and he's going to pass him 4 אמות in רשות הרבים. We're going to talk about this later on. There's actually a halacha, which we're going to talk later on. If I stand in a private domain, am I allowed to move objects in the public domain? Or the opposite, if I stand in the public domain, am I allowed to move objects in the private domain?
From private to...
No, in the private domain to the private domain. For example, I'm standing next to your window. Am I allowed to take a cup that's in your table, put it on your chair?
You're in the same domain?
I'm outside. I'm outside.
Oh, and you with your hand...
With my hand, that side. Am I allowed to do that? Why not? Did I carry an object?
You're moving it.
Yeah, but did I carry an object from the private to the public? But did I carry an object from the private to the public? So we're going to have this discussion soon, and we're going to discuss this then. Yeah. ויש מפרשים, there are those who explain, שמדובר במשנתנו אפילו באסקופה של דינה כרשות היחיד. It's talking about that even if it's a private domain, you're sitting on your balcony. Okay. Yeah? Your balcony, it rolls down into the public domain, you can take it back to the balcony. It says that doesn't make sense. How can you say that? It says you're transgressing the oraita. So it says, even that I can explain to you. How? כגון שהוא גבוה 10 טפחים, you said sitting it down in your balcony, and it rolls out into outside of the balcony into the public domain, ורוחבה 4 אל אשר רבים עוברים דרכה, והיא נקראת אסקופה הנדרסת. It's called an אסקופה הנדרסת. And you can see this also in all the cities, that the area in front of the house, people walk over there. Even though it looks like it's part of your house, but it's part of the street also. So like people are going to use it. In all cities you can see it a lot. ובא משננו להשמיענו, and the Mishnah comes to teach us, שאם נתגלגל ראשו האחד של הספר לרשות הרבים, it tells you that if one of those parts, the other end, went into the public domain, אף על פי שהאסקופה היא רשות היחיד, even though the step is a private domain, מכל מקום, הואיל והיא אסקופה נדרסת, since the public domain usually, the people in the public usually used it, ויש חשש לבניין הספר, and we are worried that the book is going to get ruined, לפיכך, בכגון זה, שראשו האחד של הספר נשאר בידו, לא גזרו חכמים שמא ישמט כולו מידו ויכניסנו. We're not afraid maybe it's going to fall into your hand completely and then you're going to come back in it. That's for sure not allowed. Over here, the only reason we're allowed to give it because you have it in your hand. But you're going to learn, oh, I don't know, okay, I'll let go, and now I'm allowed. No, that's going to be a problem. והותירי לו לגלגל את הספר, and they permitted him to move the book, even if it's a private domain, as long as that private domain is half public. So that's some people learn. Okay, next area, which is very similar also.
No, this is very strange because this is against logic. Because usually a Megillah, when you have it, it will roll into you. It's not going to roll out. It's usually roll, your Megillah Esther, you just leave it. What does he want to do? Roll back to...
Yeah, but I think the
I'm sure might be a case like this.
No, I think the reason is because you didn't use it a lot. If you take a Megillah that you use it every day,
it will roll to the other side.
It will roll to the other side, yeah. Because a Megillah you use once a year. Okay. Think about it. A book that that was the book. Every day it would be opened. It will be kept. Yeah, but still, think about it. You use the Megillah once a year. Over here, you leave it open, and you left it open long time. Every day, you're learning on it, so it will.
It's not like
yeah. I mean, it probably is the same as the Megillah of today, but the use. The use of it. Yeah, the use of it. You use it every day. It's like the tefilling. In the beginning, it's very hard, and then they become like soft. It's exactly the same way. היה קורא בראש הגג. Somebody reads, not on aspuka. In other words, you cannot say the public domain are there at all. It's not public domain for sure. Over here now, you're reading on your roof. It's your private domain. היה קורא בראש הגג, בצד הפונה לרשות הרבים, in the side that was tilting into the public domain, והגג הרי רשות היחיד, and the roof is the private domain, ונתגלגל הספר מידו לאוויר רשות הרבים. It went into the public domain, the outside of the house, but it didn't touch the ground. It's in the air. But I don't care. We say 10 tfachim away from the ground, it's still public domain. So now it is in the public domain, but it's in the air of the public domain. וראשו האחד נשאר בידו. Obviously the other hand is still in your hand. עד שלא הגיע ל10 טפחים. It says, this is the rules. If it is above 10 tfachim, because if it's below 10 tfachim, it becomes public domain. It's in the public domain. In the public domain, above 10 tfachim, that area doesn't belong to the public domain. It's called makom ptur. And we discussed it before. If you remember, if you have a pillar in the public domain more than 10 tfachim and it doesn't have wide, you can put something on it. But if it's wide, you're not allowed to put something on it. Yeah.
It's a Carmelit, actually.
Yeah. Or according to some opinion, it's makom ptur. It depends how high it is.
We learned it's Carmelit 4x4.
Depends. Between 3 and 10, above 10, you remember there was all the thing. שדיין כשתו, גוללו אצלו, מותר לו לגלול את הספר אליו. He's allowed to carry back the book to him because it never reached the public domain, no problem. Take it back. מי שהגיע ל10 טפחים הסמוכים לארץ, but now what happens if this book is still in the air, but it is in the air, in the area that is designated as public domain? אסור לגוללו אצלו. You're not allowed to take it back by him. מרשות הרבים לרשות היחיד, because that's for sure taking it from public domain to private domain. אף על פי שראשו אחד בידו. Even though the one side is in your hand. אלא הופכו על הכתב. What you can do, turn it around so that it's not going to come ruined. הופך את הספר באותיותיו כלפי הכותל. You turn the book with the letters towards the wall. שלא יהיה מוטל בביזיון, so that it's not going to get ruined. ומושירו שעמד מוצאי שבת. You have to leave it there until the end of Shabbat. בגמרא מבואר שמדובר כאן בכגון שהכותל היה משופע. The Gemara it explains, no, don't believe every word that you say. When it says the avir, it doesn't really mean the avir. Because if it was in the avir, we will let you take it up. It was in the air, we will let you take it out. I don't know. Even less than 10 טפחים. We're talking about over here that the wall of the house was like this a little bit. You know, it was like in the angle. So it means that it is within.
It's still on the wall.
It's still in the, exactly. It's still in the 10 טפחים, but it's not in the air. It's laying on the wall, like, because the wall is slanted. וראשו של הספר נח על בליטת הכותל, and the other side is still laying on something. הילקח למעלה מ10 ספרים מן הארץ, therefore more than 10 טפחים מן הארץ, הואיל ואין דינה כרשות הרבים, אלא כמקום פטור. It is not called public domain at all. It is considered a place that you're allowed to, מקום פטור, you're not obligated. מותר לו לגלול את הספר אליו, you're allowed to roll the book to him. אבל אם נח הספר על בליטת הכותל שאינה גבוהה אלא 10 טפחים מן הארץ או פחות, but if it laid on the wall within these 10 טפחים, it had to lay on the wall within these 10 טפחים, then you're allowed to. דינו כאילו נח ברישום רבים. We're going to look at it, is it not laying in the public domain. ולכן אסור לו לגלול משם את הספר אליו לרשות היחיד. And therefore you're not allowed to take it back to the private domain. מה שאין כן באסקופה שנית ברישה. It's not like the step that we discussed in the beginning. שהתירו לו לגוללו אליו, that we permitted him. לפי שאינה אלא כרמלית. Because the אסקופה is only a Carmelite. Over here it's רשות היחיד. Yeah. או אפילו כשהוא רשות היחיד לפי דעת רבה. According to some opinion, even if it is רשות היחיד, אלא שהיא אסקופה נדרסת. It's because the public are using it all the time. ויש חשש של ביזיון לספר אם יניחו ולא יגללו. אוקיי. ואילו כאן, but over here, כשמונח על הכותל, when it's on the wall itself, ואין חשש של ביזיון, and we're not worried of ביזיון, אף על פי שראשו האחד של הספר נשאר בידו, even though the other end is in his hand, לא התירו חכמים לגוללו אליו מרשות הרבים לרשות היחיד, they didn't permit him, אלא הופכו על הכתב ומניחו. You have to turn it around. רבי יהודה אומר, רבי יהודה disagrees. He says, so according to that opinion, if it's in the air, you're allowed to take it up. You'll be allowed to take it up. When you're not allowed to take it up, when it's touching something. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Rabbi Yehuda says, and this is what Rabbi Yehuda is going to say, I think. אפילו אין מסולק מן הארץ אלא כמחט. Rabbi Yehuda says, even if the distance between that and the ground is the width of a needle, it's almost touching the ground. If it's not touching the wall, yeah, Rabbi Yehuda says, אפילו אין הספר גבוה מן הארץ אלא משהו כעובי של מחט, הואיל ולא נוח עדיין ברשות הרבים, since it's not touching public domain, according to Rabbi Yehuda,
the air is once you get into the air, it's רשות הרבים.
And also, another question, I don't want to get into it, the wall, is it רשות היחיד או רשות הרבים? But is it רשות היחיד או רשות הרבים? So if there's going to be, most logically say it's still רשות היחיד. But it's in the area of רשות הרבים. Yeah? So he says, I don't care. Lying on the wall, not lying on the wall. As long as it didn't touch the ground of רשות הרבים, גוללו אצלו, you're allowed to take it up. מותר לו לגלול את הספר אליו, he's allowed to carry the book back to him, בגמרא מבואר, in the Gemara it explains, שמשנתנו כולה רבי יהודה היא. Our Mishnah is everything is according to Rabbi Yehuda, וחסרה היא פסקה דלקמן, and it's missing some words. It says במה דברים אמורים, it says in what are we talking about? That when שהגיע ל10 טפחים הופכו על הכתב, that you have to turn it on its side and you're not allowed to roll it back. בכותל משופע, we're talking about a wall that is slanted. שנמצא הספר נח על ביתת שיפרו, that the book is found on the slant. אבל בכותל שאינו משופע, but as long as it is not slanted, גוללו אצלו. is allowed to carry it by him. דברי רבי יהודה שאמר, שרבי יהודה אומר, אפילו אין מסולק מן הארץ, אלא כלא מחט גוללו אצלו. This is what it says. Even if it's on the wall, you're still allowed to carry it because it's not, the wall is private domain, he's saying. The wall is still private, what you worried about? So as long as it's not touching the public domain, you're good. Rabbi Shimon says, אפילו בארץ עצמו. He says, even if it touches the ground, you can carry it. How? אפילו נפל ראשו האחד על הספר, על הארץ, ממש רשות הרבים גוללו אצלו, you're allowed to carry him. That's ממש, taking it from public domain to private domain. How are you allowed to do that? מותר לו לגלול את הספר לרשות הרבים, לרשות היחיד, שאין לך דבר משום שבות. It says, if the problem is from the rabbis, yeah, when it comes to holy things, you're allowed to break the rabbis. The rabbis never disallowed something that will endanger a Sefer Torah, for example, or will endanger a holy object. It says they didn't do that. Automatically, the rabbis put in, if it endangers, if it makes bizayon, if it makes holiness less attractive, we're not going to let it. In other words, he's saying, think about what did the rabbis do? The rabbis are trying to protect the holiness of the Torah. They're never going to go with a decree that goes against the holiness of the Torah. It doesn't make sense. Yeah, it says, שאין לך דבר משהו שאיסורו אלא אינו מדברי סופרים. It says, the rabbis, when they decreed something, עומד בפני כתבי הקודש. You cannot stand in something of the holiness. In other words, the rabbis automatically said, we are not going to make a decree that's going to lead to not honoring a Sefer Torah. We're not going to do such a thing. We're not going to do such a thing. כלומר, which means, שביזיון כתבי הקודש דוחה איסור שבות. That if it's a decree from the rabbis, in order to save tefillin or the order to save things, if it's only you transgressing the rabbis, we're going to allow you to do it. ואף כאן, but over here it's not the rabbis. Over here you're taking from public... ואף כאן, it says, הואיל וראשו האחד של הספר עדיין בידו, it says, you standing in the private domain, what are you worried about? Yeah? You standing and you're holding it. It's not like you're picking it up now. You're holding it. It's completely in your... If it was not in your hand, then it's from the Torah. But it was always in your hand. It's not the Torah at all. עדיין בידו, since you're still holding it in your hand, ולא נפל כולו לרשות הרבים. The object is not in the public domain. In other words, if I ask you, where's the object? It's in both. I don't know, ספק. We're not sure where it is. You can't see, you don't know. הרי מן התורה מותר להחזירו. The Torah allows you to bring it back. אלא שהחכמים אסרו להחזירו שלי. The rabbi says don't put it back into the private domain. גזירה שמה ישמט כולו מידו לרשות הרבים. It's a decree. Maybe the whole thing is going to drop from your hand. And then he says, if I'm allowed to do it like this, I'm allowed to go down and pick it up also. You're going to think it's the same thing. What's the difference? נמצא שאין כאן אלא איסור שבות. So he says, the whole thing is from the Rabbanan. And if the whole thing from the Rabbanan, we will let you take it back. והרי הוא נדחה במקום שיש חשש של ביזיון כתבי קודש. And we're going to push away the decree in a place where we are worried about the holiness of words of Torah, of books of holiness. ואין הלכה כרבי שמעון. And the halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon. In other words, he says, when the rabbis decree something, yeah, the rabbis made it serious. They made it as stringent as Torah law. And once it's as stringent as Torah law, it becomes as stringent as Torah law, and we're going to... The halacha is not like Rabbi Shimon, and even a Sefer Torah, you will not be allowed to do it, because it's as stringent as the Torah law, even though the rabbis did it. In other words, the Rabbi Shimon is being lenient in the power of the rabbis. He's saying the rabbis don't have that much power. And the rabbi says, no, we do have that much power. We can make it forbidden from the Torah. It is just like it is forbidden from the Torah. That's the argument.
They are talking here not about the Sefer Torah, anything else but the Sefer Torah?
No.
Or a Sefer, it could be a Sefer Torah too?
No,
So this case could be a Sefer Torah?
Yeah, it could. Yeah.
Why don't they talk about the rain? What if it's going to rain?
They do. Turn it.
And the guy...
Turn it.
Turn it, but still it's going to get
No. So, yeah, it's going to get ruined. Yeah.
In that time, the books were very expensive.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. You're not allowed to break Shabbat. You're not allowed to break Shabbat for Chasam Amon Israel in every case. Not in this one. Yeah.
מניח את זה
Yeah.